Alright, so this is a video response to Zazubar's ideas for Zorro, and I'm a big fan of old classic characters, pulp characters. Once again, my friend Chris sends me issues of the Spider. So, I thought what I would do for this, as a video response to that video, is talk about my ideas for what I would do with the Shadow. Now, the Shadow's probably one of my favorite of the pulp characters, probably my all-time favorites, as much as I like how the Spider's been going. But anywho, the Shadow, what I would do with the character of the Shadow. Now, first off, I wouldn't have Lamont Cranston, and I definitely make this as a comic book series. I'd actually make this something akin to Batman Beyond. I would not have Lamont Cranston as the Shadow. I would actually have a totally new character. And I'd actually have Lamont's grandson, and I guess you could call him Michael Cranston. Now, what I would basically do with the Shadow is that Lamont Cranston, at an older age, he kind of gave up he kind of retired being the Shadow in hopes that his son, after settling down with his longtime lover, he settles down with her, and he's hoping that he can pass the legacy of the Shadow to his son. However, his son kind of fails on him. His son, doesn't want to be the Shadow. He, rejects his father, and as Lamont gets older, his son inherits their fortune and kind of squanders it, and uses the business in very illegal ways. So his son Charles, as I would name him, Charles Cranston or something like that. I'm just pitching names here. He would basically his son would basically try to run the Cranston name through the mud with what he does and how he runs his companies and all of that. In enters his Lamont's grandson Michael Cranston, who he's not really liked by his father. His mother has pretty much up and left after, taking his father's abuse, and he pretty much lives with his grandfather. He pretty much lives with his grandparents for the most part, and Michael is, he's very despondent. He's very angry that, life's kind of dealt him this shit hand, even though being this rich and, this, having all this money and all this power and even having some friends here and there, he just feels like, yeah, my father thinks I'm nothing because all he wants is money, and my friends are only here because they want money, so I'm a rich kid with nothing to do. So his grandfather pretty much thinks, okay, I can probably put this guy in the right direction, and maybe he can take my place. So pretty much Lamont shows his son, shows Michael that he was the Shadow. He shows him that he was the Shadow in the early years, and rather than trying to force it on him like he did with his son, he comes up to ask him, to his grandson, do you want to be the next Shadow? You have to say, if you say yes, I'll train you, I'll teach you everything that I learned, and I'll even guide you for the most part. But if you say no, that'll be it. We'll never speak of this again. So I'd actually say that Michael would initially say, he doesn't have an answer until he's he sees something that makes him want to be the Shadow. Not because of his father. Well, actually, his father would actually have a hand in it, but he'd basically see a senseless mugging of a mother and her children, and watching, he tries to save them, call the police, but he watches this mugger shoot the mom right in front of the kid, and he's trying to keep her alive, but sadly the mother passes away, and that's the moment when he says, I can stop this, I can be the Shadow. So that's when he goes back to his grandfather, asking him, teach me. So from then on, it's basically him and his Michael and Lamont, learning from each other, to be the next Shadow. I'd actually have Michael update the costume a bit, give it more he does have that pulp look to him, but I actually have there's body armor under that suit he wears. It's a little harder to move, but when you're getting shot at, it doesn't really matter. So I definitely have a bulletproof vest he kind of wears under the suit, as well as, some new weaponry, updated guns, maybe a pair of M9s, or something along those lines. I'd also give him like smoke bombs. I give like little smoke grenades or something like that to give or knockout gas or something like that. As well as he'd also learn martial arts from the same way the Shadow did. Lamont would actually what money his son hasn't squandered, he'd give to Michael to go around the world and train. And his son, Lamont's son would realize something's going on here because he would just say, "Oh, he just wanted to go on a vacation. I didn't want to go with him." So, and then he'd realize, you're taking him the same places you wanted to take me when you wanted to be the Shadow. If he becomes the Shadow, I will expose you. I'll expose my son because I know what you're going to do the moment he comes back and, he becomes the Shadow. He's going to try to bring me down. So, the moment that happens, I will expose you both and put you in prison. This guy would be such a dick, I would make him. This guy would just be all about the money. So, yeah, as you can obviously see, it would definitely be the father versus son rivalry. The father versus son rivalry, but taken to the whole next level. With the new Shadow, I would definitely have Michael be a little more... like, he's still learning. Like, he's still trying to figure out what the hell to do. Like, I'd actually have him when he's trying to jump off rooftops. And I'd actually have it like he has an earpiece to his grandfather who'd be watching it, be listening in on him. And he'd be jumping from rooftop to rooftop. It's like, this fucking cape's every time I get caught, I try to jump between rooftops. There's an updraft, and the cape gets caught, and I nearly fall backwards. Deal with it. So, and I'd actually have it like he's actually very tentative to kill. Like his first job, he doesn't even pull out the guns, and he's just very afraid of using them. And that's when Lamont would tell him, you did good, but there's going to come a day where you're going to have to pull those guns out because someone's going to gun for the Shadow, and the Shadow's going to have to shoot back. So, yeah, it would definitely have to be that Michael at first doesn't like the idea of killing people, and he'd actually try to work ways around it, like, you just use the smoke bombs and, his martial arts skills. So, but, however, it would definitely come to a point where it'd have to be like, okay, I need to pull out the guns. And I'd actually have him, like, trying to shoot at, non-lethal parts, like shoot them in the leg, shoot them in the arm, non-vital areas, just to make him go down. But eventually I would have it that this guy, he'd eventually have to be what his grandfather was. And I think that would definitely be an interesting dynamic between the two, that he would go to his grandfather and be like, look, you killed a lot of people. I mean, I don't care if they were bad or good, but you dragged yourself down to that level and murdered people. Do you want me to be like that? Do you want your grandson to be like that? And in response, Lamont would be, yeah, what I did was for the better good, but if you really don't want to go down that route, if that choice is yours. I'm not going to make the same mistake twice and try to force my ideals on you. You have to be your own incarnation of the Shadow. So definitely something like that. And I actually would, when Michael does become the Shadow, his father would know exactly who it is, because who else would the Shadow be? So he would go to his grandfather and be like, look, I'm going to turn you in. But however, at that same time, I'd actually have Michael find some dirt on his father's company and be like, okay, look, here you go. I've got some information. We're going to play nice here. You're not going to tell the Shadow, you're not going to tell who the Shadow is, and I'm not going to leak this to the press or even the government. Like, I don't know, like maybe it'd be radioactive materials, or they're selling weapons, something along those lines. And Michael would basically tell him, I won't leak this, you won't leak that I'm the Shadow, and you won't leak that Grandpa was the Shadow before me. So something along those lines of what I'd like to do with the character of the Shadow. Definitely have Lamont Cranston in there, but have him more guiding his grandson in here. I'd actually have a few other costume villains in here. I know the Shadow did have a few rogues here and there, but I'd actually give a few more. Like maybe this one character in particular I'd make up is this character I named Checkmate. Checkmate's this he's kind of like a combination of Lex Luthor and the Riddler, where he's this serial killer, but he plays everything. He makes everything like a chess game, and he always has like the white pieces, and he makes the Shadow the black pieces. So whenever the Shadow makes a move, he would take a piece from his chess set, the black piece set, and move it like it would be a game they're playing. And the first time, he would, he's either a bank robber, or, he's either stealing stuff or killing people periodically for those who wronged him. I would make him like his backstory would be that he was a computer engineer for his father's company, and his father, ripped him off big time and fired him and had him in prison for, false evidence. And then he comes back as the villain Checkmate. And unfortunately, Michael has to, he doesn't know whether to let him, actually want his father to die at this guy's hands, because this guy's meticulous and, cunning and dangerous and has so many plans and death traps set up, or, do it himself. Even he doesn't know if he wants to kill his own father, when that time comes. But I would make, like I said, Michael's father the big villain. And, try to get in touch with his mother and all that, but it would mostly be, having said all that, that's pretty much the ideas. I know it's kind of new and very different, and I would like to write some pulp stories here and there with the Shadow, but mostly that's an idea I want to get out, because, I mean, if Kevin Smith came up with that whole idea of having Britt Reed's son and Kato's daughter as the next Green Hornet and Kato, I figured, why the hell not? Why can't Lamont have a family tree and not have it the same way he, not have the most happy of families? So, anyway, guys, that's pretty much all the ideas I had for the Shadow. It's pretty brief, I know, but all things considered, I think I got most of my ideas out. You guys tell me what you thought of these ideas, and once again, give credit to Zazubar for all of this, and yeah, also to Zazubar. Why haven't we not worked together on something yet? I'm just throwing that out there. Anywho, excuse me, but yeah, that's pretty much all my ideas for the Shadow, and I'm out.